You don't gain 500,000 followers on YouTube by sucking, that's for sure. But we're going to find out just how you gain that many followers and more when we talk to YouTuber Nik Nocturnal today on Chris Aiken Presents. It is Chris Aiken Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Aiken, and today we are stepping outside of my normal realm of covering TV and movies and interviewing bands and whatnot. We are going to interview arguably the champion. It's either him or Matt Heafy, the champion of heavy metal in the creative digital space. He has a monstrous YouTube channel with goddamn way too many followers on it for me to count. He is the great Nik Nocturnal. Nik, how are you, man?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, dude. Well, dude, as I was telling you before we got started, man, I am a fan. I'm a fan because I really feel like you've tapped a space that there's a ton of people that love, but at the same time, there's not a ton of people that cover it. You know, everybody has kind of moved on to like emo or you know, the more modern stuff, and they've forgotten this great time period, more or less, of metalcore. And then there's great metalcore bands today, but yeah, you sort of cover all of it from the 90s, from the Ozfest era till today, you know. So I guess that's probably a good place to start, is talk about your love of the game and what got you into covering this specific genre on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all ties back to just even starting guitar and metal. I mean, I grew up with my cousins, and he was 5 years older than me, so he was always kind of into the, you know, the scene a lot more and listening to bands. So I would always just sit in his room and play video games, and he would put on stuff like Under Oath, Alexis on Fire, Atreyu, and then also, of course, As I Lay Dying and bands like that. So I was just always hearing it. And again, I was like probably 8, 9, 10. Okay. And it was like, to me, that was like terrifying music. I was like, why are they screaming? You know, like it made no sense to me. But I just kept listening to it all day because like I was just in the vicinity with him playing video games. That I just like, I loved it. I don't know. It was something that just triggered inside of me where I just adapted, but also specifically when I think there was two things, Avenged Sevenfold Unholy Confessions, which is one of, you know, I know they're not a metalcore band, but Wake in the Fallen is such a metalcore album to me. And I love that album. It was when I heard that the first time where I was like, what is this? You know, and it blew my mind. And also As I Lay Dying, specifically through Struggle on that Shadows of Security album, which is top 10 favorite albums of all time still for me. And I don't know, it just kind of stuck with me forever, and that was the era that really clicked. And before then, you know, I had a bit of punk here, you know, Blink-182, Rancid, NoFX, classic rock, you know, Guns N' Roses, Led Zeppelin, even Eric Clapton, again, all stuff that my cousin would basically just play. And even like 80s heavy metal, but also a lot of that came from playing Guitar Hero around the same time. So I owe a lot of thanks to that. But it was right when they started the metalcore stuff that my brain just like adapted. And I'm like, I want to do this and be involved in this for the rest of my life. So that's really the best way I guess I could describe that era. And then just as I got older, I just got, you know, attached to different things, different influences. So that's why nowadays I try to, you know, I love the modern stuff. It's always interesting, unique to me. I have a project for modern stuff, Termina, literally, as well as a lot of the stuff I cover on my YouTube is very, very now and modern. But I like, nothing gets me happier, especially when I pick up my guitar and put it in drop C than playing some 2000s metalcore. It just, I have a love for that era so much.
Right on. Now, man, you are the rare breed that does both. You play guitar, you're in a band. You also have a YouTube channel, which is very full-time. It's definitely not, well, I'm in a band and I'm also shooting TikTok videos on the side to promote your band. I mean, it seems like the YouTube is more important than, maybe not more important, but more time-consuming than the band stuff. So how did you differentiate what to focus on and where you were going to, you know, be at?
Yeah. So in terms of differentiating them all, it really was, it was weird because I started as a guitarist first, I think more than like a metal lover, even though listening to metal is what made me want to play guitar kind of at first. But then when I got into guitar, it was like, oh, I want to do all the guitar stuff. I wanted to play all the guitar songs. I want to learn how to sweep pick. I want to, I was very guitar focused. And that would then dictate kind of what I wanted to listen to at the time, which is great because it actually helped expand my boundaries pretty early on from not just metal, because I was more intrigued by guitar work than metal at the time. And then as I got older and I started writing music, like, got a little shitty DAW and like, Cubase as a way to record and free guitar plugins, that you just download. I started to fall in love with writing music. And that's where the extra spark of, oh, well, when I write, even though I've learned some of these techniques from all these different genres, I felt comfortable in specifically metalcore starting out, actually, and writing it to that capacity. So I kind of would just delve into that a lot and go much harder into that. So that's where it was like, oh, now I started to notice I like metal more than I like guitar.
Right.
So throughout that, and then starting YouTube at the same time, because being a fan of YouTube, I just found a way to balance in a way that wasn't necessarily balancing, but just more, I like this today, so I want to do this. Right. So it was like, I was feeling like playing guitar today, so let's do guitar stuff. Or I'm feeling like making a creative YouTube video, which usually that went hand in hand with guitar for when I started. So I would do that. Or just like, I want to write today, so like I would do that. And this was all when I was in like high school. So high school, and then when I got to university, I was like same kind of thing. So that's really how I would balance it until my YouTube started to grow and I got a bigger passion for YouTube along the way. And it was tough, definitely balancing the love for YouTube, the need to keep it up and be consistent with it, the want to write music, because that's why a lot of this started in some capacity, and then my love for still guitar and wanting to become a better guitar player and be a better musician in that sense. So that feeds unique content, and that also feeds my writing and music. So yeah, it just, over the years, those have all become harder and harder to balance. And nowadays it's like, I basically just look at my calendar and like, I rarely have time to even write music, which is kind of sad.
I get it.
Yeah. And YouTube has definitely kind of taken over, and so is Twitch in a good way. But definitely, there's some times where I'm like, as much as I really love doing this video right now, I kind of just want to sit here at like 2 a.m. and just like write something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which I have the agency to do. It's not like I have someone saying you need to get a video out by this time, but it's definitely become harder to balance all of them. And if I don't have a calendar, it's not happening. I live by that.
Well, and the thing is being a YouTuber today, being a serious YouTuber, not a hobbyist, I guess.
Yeah.
Being a serious YouTuber, it puts a ton of pressure on you always to be creating. As well as I do, you go a week without a video, people think that you either died or quit. I mean, that's just the way it is with YouTube. It's such a fickle thing. How do you manage that responsibility to push yourself to do stuff like when you have creative vision and you just want to write for a week or a month or whatever?
I've tried my best to shift sometimes my directions, and that's why even though it has taken me longer, I've kind of developed my YouTube in this almost like variety-esque way, where it's like, you're going to get either some guitar thing, some metal thing, or some random meme thing, because these are all my passions, right? And I feel I get bored very quickly of the same thing, which is not a good trait for being a musician usually. But that's where I do have the freedom to expand. So if I'm in a writing mode, sure, like maybe I'll be like, damn, I have to stream tonight. Okay, let's stream writing. Like, you know what I mean? I can kind of link them in some capacity. And then same thing with YouTube. It's like, oh, well, I wrote this really cool thing and I'm not going to use it for a band. Let's release it. And that's something I wrote, like one of my videos, I think even last week or a week before, like Egyptian metal, which is like, I had that demo forever. And I was like, I kind of want to mess with this. I don't really like, I'm feeling like creative in a writing sense. I don't really want to make like a YouTube video. So I threw that out there and I was like, oh, okay.
Certainly, man. Well, and the interesting thing for you as a musician with this gigantic audience, it's kind of the new way. And what I mean by that is the old style, I'm 53 years old, so I'm old. And the old style was write a song, get out there, get into a club, play it. Maybe if you're good enough, you get into a band that goes around the country and plays it. You reach that audience. You reach the audience of most mid-level bands nightly if you want to. If you want to test out a song, you throw it up there. Like I just saw you posted a video yesterday, has 150,000 views. 150. I mean, if you just do the math, most clubs hold 2,000 people. So that's, you're literally doing a tour of that song nightly if you want to. And it makes sense. But at the same time, does that feel to you like it takes away from the full experience of creating and sharing your music with an audience?
I feel for a lot of YouTubers, it does, because a lot of YouTubers in the music space build their YouTube around specific YouTube things, and less involving their writing, over the years. Because even myself, I would disguise my writing in memes, but I was still kind of writing. So even if a video that was a meme theme got like a bunch of views, I would still feel satisfied in the writing category, because I'm like, well, I wrote all those riffs and people are liking the riffs, and they like the kind of the way it's shadowed within a meme, but it's still tied within all of that. So I've managed to find a way where it is usually not as satisfying, but like pretty close. So I'm not like, damn, man, like it's just like sure, it's cool, but it's like whatever, it's just some stupid YouTube video. Usually I'm like, okay, like it can correlate in a good and healthy way. That does feel rewarding in that sense. But there's definitely no better feeling than releasing, I think, original music. And for me, at least, that being like the pure, like no memes attached, it's just like, here it is, see how well it does. But when it comes to the OG way of like, playing shows and what normal musicians do, right? I was a weird kid. I never cared to be in a band or to perform. I loved writing.
All right.
That was the big thing always. And I still stand with that. Like, performing's cool and fun, but I never have that itch like a lot of my friends do that are like, I need to go on tour, I need to perform. It's like, that's what I live for. Right. And I just never really care. I'm just like, I feel the most satisfaction in like that cloud nine when I write something, release it, and people seem to like it. And I'm like, okay.
Sure. Well, and if you don't have the passion to be out there on tour, then you're on the next best thing, because again, what do you have, 600,000 followers or something on your YouTube channel? You're reaching a country. If you really want to, if you want to look at it that way, you're reaching a small country's worth of people. Now, Nick, obviously, we just mentioned it. You have 600,000 followers. I'm going to ask what is an obvious dumb question that every guy like me is going to ask you. How do you get that following? I mean, you're not famous guy. You're not, it's not like we can go and see your catalog of movies or your 50 Grammys that you have or any of that stuff. You're just a guy that plays guitar and creates fun stuff. How do you get to this level, 600,000 followers on a channel, on a musical style that's not necessarily, super popular or pop oriented?
Right. Well, I think it's a couple things. Number one, it was definitely a while. So that's the thing. I've had bigger videos, but I've never really had that like one big viral video. That's the thing that like now then you make your channel all about it. You know what I mean? And then you kind of like farm that idea and you become that person, right? I've had bigger videos like Slavic metal that have definitely done really well, and I randomly have a lot of Russians that are like, back in the day, like join the channel, they're like, wait, Nick, you're not, wait, why do you, I thought you were like super Slav and like this is the thing, why are you just like some basic Canadian dude that just like talks in your videos? But yeah, it was a long grind mixed in with I guess if I had to like simplify it, almost forcing myself in the community, even where I wasn't wanted. And in ways, whether it have been like forums, I know is kind of a specific way a lot of YouTubers go, but I more so did it in like the band way. So like new song would come up from this big band and I would like it as a metal consumer, right? Like, and I'd be like, I want to do a guitar cover. So by doing a guitar cover of this very new song, you know, my name, when you type in the band's new song in YouTube, if my cover was decent enough, people were viewing it an okay amount, it would also pop up near the actual band song. So it would almost be this, I don't want to say natural community building, if anything, unnatural community building where I was just everywhere and people didn't probably like it. You know, because it was all their favorite bands usually I'd be covering, because that's how I would relate to them. It's like, guys, I'm not just some like, I like these bands too. Like I relate to you in that sense. And then either people would notice, oh my God, this guy's literally near everything that I like. Like I'll search it up on YouTube and he has a guitar cover for it. And they'd be stoked because they'd be like, oh, that's sick. Like this guy has like very similar taste in music to me and it's pretty broad. Or they'd be like, I hate this guy's face. I'm sick of seeing it. And they'd hate watch me and sometimes become fans that way, which is really funny too. And then sometimes people just really would not like me, which is also fine. But that's basically that over 5 years. And then I saw that got me to maybe 100K. And then I started to see real growth as I started to utilize that audience space I already had and build upon it through different formats, more so showing my personality, showing fun, unique, different concepts, that I was able to utilize this unique combination, I think, of strengths of musician, guitarist, metalhead who likes a lot of 2000 stuff, but also very, very modern stuff, but also YouTuber and streamer, you know, all together. And I played to those strengths in various different types of videos that I think added that uniqueness to a point while still doing a lot of basic stuff. Like I still do reactions. Anyone can do a reaction video. It's really not hard. You turn on the camera and you talk at it. Right. But I think that's what is really where I started to add the growth. And when I started to have a lot more fun, it just, I was just like, I'm not going to try to be an image. I'm just going to be my dumbass self. And I think people relate to it, I think is the big thing. They relate to it and hopefully they feel like I'm a part of that community. And they're like, hey, my dude Nick over here, you know, new song came out. Like, let's go, man. I want to see you do this or do this. And that's, I think, where it really starts to all connect after all the years.
Sure. I think the other thing that you do, at least from watching your channel, is you don't let the shit talking trolls get to you at all. In fact, you have fun with them. You know,
I have fun with them.
I was watching your thing on the Metalcore subreddit, and I was just laughing my ass off that you literally took the time to write this big expansive shit on yourself and then said, here, I dare you to say something about it. You know?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I've heard such dumb stuff over the years, and that's the thing. I'm not a dude that's not like, oh, I don't like criticism. I'm the opposite. I actually really love criticism. Like I love constructive stuff. I love that's like, hey, this riff was maybe not played correctly, or like you know, this video, try to work on your video quality, try to do this. These are all comments I got over the years that actually helped me become a better YouTuber, right? But just stupid things, and that's really what that post was. It was just such dumb things, like in this my eyes, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? I exist like this, right? Or you know, it's things that I'm like, what do you want from me, kind of at that point? Like after all these years, I've heard them a million times. What do you want from me? You know, I get accused of stupid things like bots. I'm like, yeah, over 8 years, these are all bots. Thank you. Right. Or faking my reactions. And I'm like, I'm sorry that I just get excited when I like what I'm listening to. Right. And it's like all these things. I put it into one because I wanted it to almost be like this. First of all, I wanted them to get a nice laugh out of it in the Metalcore subreddit, because that's where I am at heart. I'm an entertainer. You know, I'm a content creator. I'm like, you know what? If someone's going to make a hate thread about me, I want it to be good, right? Like, I don't want it to be half-assed by some random who doesn't actually, you know all the proper hate things they should about me at this point. So I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to go all out on myself, make it funny, because when people read this is real stuff I get told. But when you put it in that context of it all together, it sounds so effing dumb.
Right.
That it's almost like that was like yeah, like I know you guys are saying this. I do not care. I haven't cared for 8 years. That's why I still do what I do, and that's why I haven't changed my eyes, because I can't.
Right.
So this is what I am. I get the joke. Haha.
Right.
You know what like, get at me. What do you got next? Like, let's go. You know, like, give it to me at that point, because it's just so ridiculous, some of the stuff people say. That's because it's not constructive. Actually, the constructive, like I said, is great. It makes me a better YouTuber. It makes me a better musician. But just stupid stuff like I wrote there, I was like, just dumb. And so I was like, let's have some fun with it. Why not?
Sure, certainly, man. Well, Nick, the other thing that you do extremely well is you balance all of the online places. Yeah. And I mean, you know as well as I do that the landscape changes sometimes week to week. You know, for a while it was all about YouTube. Then there was Rumble, BitChute. There's a zillion other things that popped up. Then there was TikTok, and then there was Instagram, and Instagram video, and Instagram TV, and Instagram Reels, and now Facebook Reels, and Reddit, and all, you know, there's so many. And you've managed to kind of hit the spaces when you need to, but not overcompensate away from your core place, being YouTube. I mean, I know you're doing a lot of Twitch stuff now too, which is, you know, is obviously the next phase of where YouTubing is going. Talk a little bit about how you make your decisions on what platforms to focus on versus which ones, maybe just to throw a meme here and there, but just to keep alive, but not necessarily be focused on.
A lot of it weirdly started as being aware that it was more of a business mindset, like audiences in these other platforms. So I would start but I was like, well, how do I get there in a fun way that takes no effort? That's always my first attempt at things. Is like, how do I meme it to kind of test the waters to see what it actually is about? Because I don't know a lot of the time, right? Like I never really used to use Instagram or definitely not Twitter and like stuff like that. Right. So I would just shitpost on there and post like whatever dumb thing I think does do well there. And then it's so funny because I'd start having fun doing that. Right. And then because I'd start having fun posting stuff on there, I'd inadvertently become a consumer of the platform. Right. So I actually became like a user. And then when I started to become a user, you know, even though it started as this meme, like, oh, well, there's an audience there, let's go test the waters. It actually became I'm a fan of this place and the type of content that's on here. Right. It's now a different creative place for me to go. Like if I'm not feeling like making a YouTube video, and that's the thing, a lot of people don't understand. All these audiences on a lot of these different platforms are different. And also there's a different type of content on there. So as soon as I started realizing that, as I kept expanding to these different platforms, again, starting as a meme, usually, right? I actually became like, I almost took it as a challenge, but at the same time, as a consumer, I was very engaged, and just it opened up a lot of creative abilities and insights where I was like, oh, this is cool. I can explore, like on Instagram, I can explore aesthetics and memes in a completely different way that I cannot do on YouTube or any other platform. Sure. Right. Twitter, I can explore the concept of creating a sentence that is as relatable as possible and funny. Right. Which again, you can't do that. YouTube, you can't do that. Here, you can't do that on Twitch. And same thing, Twitch, when I expanded to there, I was like, it's a completely different ball game. And I just became fans of all those platforms as a consumer. And that's what drives creativity on all those different platforms. Weirdly, naturally, even though there's still always like the blockades where it's like, have a post on here for a while. And then when you feel like you need to, that sucks, because it's like, it should always sometimes feel like a natural thing. But that's really how it started as memes. It became a fan of it.
Right on, man. Well, Nick, I contend two things about content creation. One, it's a young guy's game. It's just, it just is. You know, and I'm an old guy and I wish I could do it, but I'm old. And I know just because of that, it ain't going to happen. But the reason it's not going to happen is the second point, is because younger people, yourself included, understand the concept of building online communities, where older guys, we did it the old-fashioned way. It was, you liked a band, everybody got together at a bar somewhere, you talked about it, you shit talked about it, you did whatever, but it was a get-together thing, where now, you know, a lot of times, I mean, you have 600,000 followers. I'm sure you've met like 30 of them, you know, I mean, but as a community, that community comes to see what you're saying and what you're doing. And that is lost on people as they get older.
Yeah.
For you personally, do you think that the old model is just completely dead, or could older guys, that if they had the right content, just content, not the attitudes, if they had old guy attitudes but young guy content, could they make a dent, or do you think that it has to be community first, online community driven in order to be successful?
I think anyone, if the content is right and fits, can make anything work. If they believe in it, if they're passionate about it, and they have something unique that plays to their unique strengths as a person, they can make it work. But it does involve community online building, I think, for sure. So it's kind of tying those two together. And I mean, that's the thing, is because, you know, people online, again, some of them are just in the younger, like teens, 20s,
sure,
to usually up to 30. And that's the thing. That's because usually some people, when they hit 30, whatever, they get older, they have kids and shit, you know, they have like actual lives. And it's like, you know, and it's like, oh, damn, like they just don't maybe have as much time. Whereas again, kids in school or whatever, when they're bored, like this is the only place they go. Right. Like, especially, you know, 20-year-olds, when they're stuck in, you know, their classes at college and whatnot, they're fucking bored. And when they're at, you know, their day job working at the mall, like there's nothing else to fucking do. So like, let's go and, you know, watch something and be entertained. So as long as I think, and I don't think it only has to appeal to those, that demographic. I think there is tons of content for demographics 30, 40, 50 plus. It's just, you have to find the right pockets and niches of where those, you know, that demographic is mainly looking for, right? Sure. Like, I don't think they're looking for like, what's the new TikTok dance?
Right.
It's just, they're not. And that's, I don't look for that either. You know? But they're looking for other things that that relate all to content that might be spread out across all these platforms. And the best way to find what they're looking for is just being one of those people and relating to yourself. Well, what do I want to see? What do I like watching on these platforms? And what can I add value to these things that maybe are already happening, whether it's like reaction videos or educational things that uniquely make it so that people come to see what I do about it, what I say about it,
right?
And the take I have specifically on those things that appeal to the demographic I'm aiming for. So I do think anyone can do it. It's just, it's tricky in every demographic. I think is a different way of approaching it in that sense.
Sure. Do you think the content also has to be super focused? Like, you know, there's a lot of people that are out there and they'll talk about a ton of different things. They'll talk about music and metal and pop rock and movies and TV and, you know, all kinds of different stuff. And it never seems like those channels really explode. It almost seems like the ones like yours that explode are the ones that are very focused on a certain, like, I'm assuming you watch movies, but I don't think I've ever seen a movie review from you either. So, you know, I mean, you keep your niche very focused. Do you think that that's a trait that needs to be done to be successful in the space?
I think when you start, it's much healthier to have a focus because your audience starts to get a sense of what you're about. Again, you're just building an audience in that sense. Right. So they don't know. If you're a person that does a lot of different stuff, it's a little hard to focus because a lot of people that usually first start following you is for one specific thing. It's not as much about they follow you because you're specifically relatable when you start, or like you're doing a lot of different stuff. It's harder. Usually it's for a specific type of content they like that latches on. And then when you grow as a content creator, you reach this part, which I always call like when a content creator transcends past their content, where they become a personality where people will come to watch whatever they do because they want that person's take on anything, not just things in their field. And that's what you see a lot of those big YouTubers do, which a lot of they sometimes get called out for like doing boring, shitty content or just talking about whatever. But that's because they're so easily relatable because them as just a human being now, not in a specific metal field or even sometimes the tech field or whatever thing it is. You just want to see them talk about anything at that point. So it takes a long time and a lot of following, I think, to transcend to that point. And before then, I'm not saying it's impossible because people have done it. I think it's just harder to get the variety thing, because I know even myself, like, again, taking the consumer mindset, I watch people because they do one thing sometimes. And sometimes I watch personalities because they're so personality based and driven. I'll watch whatever they do. So it depends, but it definitely is harder early on.
Absolutely, man. Well, one thing that doesn't seem hard for you is getting followers on YouTube, dude. 600,000 followers. Nik Nocturnal, why don't you give out the plugs and let people know where they can follow you on both YouTube, Twitch, wherever else you want them to?
Sure. It's all Nik Nocturnal. I spelled Nick the wrong way, so it's, you know, it's just my name, but it's spelled the wrong way. So I was able to get that on all the platforms, luckily. So that's it. Nik Nocturnal on whatever. Twitch, all that. And if you want to hear actual music and not me doing dumb faces, band Termina. And if you want to hear dumb trap metal, I have a project called Nik Noc, where I try to be a trap metal SoundCloud rapper dude with fake tattoos. And I also, just a lot of fun stuff coming, but it's all around usually my channel. So yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, one more time, follow Nik on any of the platforms. Nik Nocturnal, thanks so much for joining us here on Chris Hagen Presents.
Thanks for having me.